All right, so evidently we tested this out during the break. You can actually call methods inside of views, but let's not do that for now. So locals, again, is just a list of local variables that you will need inside of your view. So this particular view relies on something called holidays. So I'm looking for that particular the particular key called holidays, and the value of the holidays variable is this list of holidays here. So if we jump back here, you can Africa. I don't know what that is. That's probably not correct. So this particular thing is just in plain text, and that's fine, but instead let's render some HTML. So I'm going to change, just for time's sake, I'm going to get rid of all of this and just dump this in here. Now, it's HTML just like we expect, and it's opening and closing HTML. I don't really need a head because I'm not really doing anything right now. And this body, everything between lines 2 and 12 is the stuff that I'm expecting to show up to the screen. H1 of list of federal holidays. I have a horizontal rule going across the page. And then I have an unordered list. And at this point, here's that particular piece of Ruby code, that this ERB, this embedded Ruby code. I have the holidays variable. I'm going to iterate over each one of those and do holiday. And when I want something to show up to the screen, I'm going to do this same thing, but with an equal sign. So I'm going to have a list with just the holiday on there. So let's see if what this looks like. So this is what it looks like before. It's just plain text. We refresh it, and we get something that looks a little bit more like a web page. List of federal holidays, the horizontal rule, just the line going straight across the whole screen. And then I'm iterating over each one of these holidays in an unordered list and creating a list element with each one of those holidays. And that's where we end up here. So let's add another action to our application. So as of right now, you can see that we have all the federal holidays, but let's just do Chicago holidays. What's that?
They just added a holiday for the city.
They did? What is it?
It is what's his name? The comedian that passed away.
Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac. There you go.
Did they really?
Yep.
So we have a new thing here. It says Chicago holidays. So whenever anyone makes a request to Chicago holidays, I'm going to create a new thing, a local variable called Chicago holidays that only exists between lines 8 and 11. And it's going to be the list of holidays plus Casimir Pulaski Day. I don't know if that's an actual holiday in Chicago, but maybe it is, maybe it's not. And then I'm going to load something up called Chicago holidays with locals holidays equals Chicago holidays. So I'm going to create a new template here called Chicago holidays.erb. I'm going to just dump this in here. It's very similar to the right side. HTML body, list of Chicago holidays, horizontal rule. Holidays each do holiday, and let's just see if this works first. We're all about small wins here. So federal holidays, I just go to Chicago holidays. It says list of Chicago holidays. It looks almost identical, and then we have this extra Casimir Pulaski Day at the very end. What do you notice about the two things on the right and left? I'm repeating myself. What's the only thing that changes? What's that?
The H1 tag.
The H1 tag, yeah. This is the only thing that's different. So if I have code that's completely identical between line 7 and 11, like they're identical, like maybe there's some spacing issues here and there, but overall the content is exactly the same. What we can do is create what's called a layout. So let me do something real quick. So we see that there's many commonalities between Chicago holidays ERB and federal holidays ERB. They both start out with HTML. They both start out with body. The H1's a little bit different. The horizontal rule is very similar. I think we can cut down on some of this code. I see that everything starts with HTML and body and ends with body and HTML, right? 1 and 2 is the same on these two, and 12 and 13 are identical as well. So what I'm going to do is create what's called a layout. Called this layout.erb. I'm going to put all of my common code between these two inside of that. So I believe it's just HTML and body, then body and HTML. Now what a layout does is it loads first. Now if you go to pretty much any website, walmart.com. You go to walmart.com and you take a look up here at the very, oh, this is taking forever. Let's go to Target. You go to target.com. There are certain things that stay the same on every page, right? So I'm here, I'm at the main page, and I see that there is this black line of stuff, and then all of, like maybe the search bar might be the same, and I'm guessing most of the time the things at the bottom remain the same. Let's just choose random things. All right, so we're going to choose this Apple Watch. Now, the content in the middle shifted, but this at the top remained the same, and this at the top remained the same. If we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see that this stuff at this footer at the bottom also remains the same. So what's happening on every single page, even if I just go to a specific item, going to Beats or something like that, you can see that certain things remain constant on every page. It follows a specific layout. I have this black line, I have this search bar, I have whatever content is in the middle. This is the stuff that changes right here in the middle. But all the way at the bottom, and then I get to the help, and then I get to the footer. Like, it seems like everything starts with the same two things and ends with the same two things. The only things that are different are the things inside of here. Now, every single page that you visit, you can either write the code for the beginning, for this black line, the search bar, this bottom thing, and then this footer. You can write it over and over again on every single page, or you can do what's called a layout, which means that I'm going to render this stuff first, and then I'm going to have just a middle section that changes. So that's kind of the idea what we've got here. Everything starts off with HTML and body, so I'm going to just remove those. And then get rid of these two. So what happens is, anytime anybody makes a request to any of these things, it first looks into layout. Layout is the first thing that shows up. And then I'm going to add one small little body, one small little change called yield. So again, somebody comes down to my website, makes a request to /federal holidays. It's a GET request. And inside of it, it'll first load layout before it does anything. So before it even gets to federal holidays, it's going to hit layout. It's going to load all of this stuff and then yield its time over to each individual template. So it starts off with an HTML in the body, and then it yields over to here. So basically, this yield on line 3 is essentially just saying copy and paste all of this code and throw it into here. And then we're going to close it off with HTML and body as well. Let's just verify that everything works exactly the same. I have Chicago holidays. Looks good. Let's do federal holidays. Also looks good. Do I want to go into this?
So what does yield do? It just goes over your other linked line.
Yeah. You ever go to you ever watch like the Oscars or anything, or any like award show, right? Like, sure, if it's on, it's always on at like Sunday at like 10 p.m., which like I don't know why they do that, but it's always like somebody goes up to the mic and they start talking, and then when they're done, how do you, like, when it's coming to a close, they start playing the music so that you have to like stop talking, right? They're at that point they have to yield the microphone off to somebody else. They have to give it to somebody else. So it's basically saying layout's going to take care of everything. It's in charge of doing HTML body, and then it's handing the microphone off to somebody else. It's yielding its time over to Federal Holidays to like take the stage. And then when Federal Holidays is finished, it comes back and it says, okay, now I'm going to do the body and the HTML. Okay. I don't want people to get too confused today, so I'm not going to do the thing called partials. It's basically if this and this are identical, I can make one partial, like one file, and then just read it in here, and then that'll be fine. Yeah, I won't do that today, just for not to get people confused.
Right, people will maintain it.
Sure. Let's create a brand new file. I'm going to kill this one, cd out. We'll make a directory called Sinatra host params. cd Sinatra host params. Open up Spawn. So when we're working with an application, we're going to need to take information from users so that we can work with it. Let's say if we wanted to ask for a user's name, we can't like possibly define routes ahead of time for every possible name, right? So if we had something like, hello, Emma, Olivia, Sophia, Isabel, like we can't, why are all these ending in A's? I've always wondered that. I know like the most popular names these days are, names that ends with A's. Like for like I think like baby names for women, for young girls is actually things that end with A's. I'm not sure why that is. But let's say that we wanted to greet somebody on our website based on their name. We can't possibly write every single name in existence and have like a customized thing where it says, hello, Emma. This is not sustainable, right? Like if we wanted to have a customized greeting for every single person, you can't possibly do this forever because there are so many names out in the world. We need to figure out a way how to get that user input dynamically. So in Sinatra, we can create very complicated routes and grab values from the user. So let's just grab this here and I'll show you what I mean. So line 1, I require Sinatra. And then line 2, I get anytime anyone makes a request to /hello/:name, I don't know, I'm not sure what that is. I'm going to do everything between lines 3 and 8. So on line 4, I have a greeting. It's just an array of 4 different languages of how to say hello. So we have English, Spanish, don't know, and don't know. 2 other languages. These are just 4 different ways to say hello, and I'm going to grab a random one of them. Now on line 5, this is where it gets interesting. So name, let's change it to something else. Parameter name. So what this is going to do is grab the name based on what's provided inside the parameters. So parameters are inside of your URL here. So when I had /hello Olivia, hello Isabella, hello whatever, I created one specific route every single time. This :name here basically says account for anything and save it as into params under the key of name. And then at the end, all I'm going to do is say greeting, whatever your name is. So let's shotgun this. So we're listening on 9393, and I'm going to go to hello, John. It says, hola, John. And because what's happening here, again, we're choosing a random greeting. I think everyone's okay with that. The parameter name is basically reading into what parameters were passed in the URL under the key name of name. So I can name this whatever I'd like. I can do, and then it'll just grab whatever the user typed here and then insert it in its place. So if I do hello John, I can do hello Raymond, and it says, I don't know how to say this, hello Raymond. If I jump over to like Leanna or something like that, it grabs whatever is inside the URL, saves it into what's called it's called a hash it's a hash called params, and then you have access to this poop variable right here. So I'm going to require pry at the top and kind of show you what params gives you. So I refreshed. I'm stuck. Like you can kind of see, it's just kind of spinning right now. Let's take a look. So we're stuck right over here. Let's take a look what params is. Params is a hash that's given to us for free in most modern web frameworks. It's what the person has entered inside of the URL. And it's also what people have entered in on forms. So let's take a look at what params is. So params, I'm not saying anything about Leanna here. I just happened to choose this particular variable name. So params, again, is just a hash that's available to us here. It grabs things either from forms or from the URL, and it will save it. So whenever someone goes to get/hello and then types in anything, that anything that comes after this slash is saved into the poop key inside the params hash. So when I do params of poop, I actually can get to Leanna's name. So I don't have to keep typing hello Isabella, hello Olivia, and Sophia, and things like that. Okay. So again, params, main thing I'm trying to point here is params is basically just a hash or something that behaves a lot like a hash. When we want to get information from users in our application, we generally use params to do so.
Why would their name be in the URI?
What's that?
Why would their name be in the URI?
So let's even take a look at what I'm using over here. This is your curriculum thing for today, right? So github.com/echoplatoon. Like in the back end here, we might even have something like, what do you think is happening underneath the hood here? So whenever anyone goes to github.com/echoplatoon, like, are you declaring a route that does like get, /echoplatoon? Like, do this. So if I didn't have this like params like poop thing or the name, I'm just gonna change this back to name. You would literally, like, this is how it would work for GitHub. So whenever anyone on GitHub makes a GET request to /echoplatoon, like, let's type out some pseudocode. 1, make a SQL query to find all of echoplatoon's repos in the database. Create a view for it and display the view. Now, this is just this is one particular thing for one particular organization, right? Now, if I do the same thing, like there's obviously more than one. We've had more than one cohort so far, so we could do Bravo Platoon, and it would do the same steps 1, 2, and 3, and then Charlie and Delta. Like whenever anybody makes a request to /echoplatoon or Bravo Platoon or any organization on GitHub, like you have to basically, like, if you were to type individual things out, you'd have 20,000, 20 million, different things, or even I think it's even like your username. So it's like there's not one specific route for my username. That's what I'm trying to say. There's one route, period, which is just like username. And then I only have to have one block of code here. So it's like no matter what happens over here, like I'm going to do the same little bits of code here, no matter what they decide to pass in. let's do one last thing, and I think that'll take us until 11. So let's create something called greet.rb. Get rid of this. We've been dealing with mostly with GET requests so far. Everything has been a GET. Instead, now I'm going to have a post request as well. So this is what we've got. We've got require Sinatra on line 1, bringing the Sinatra library here. I'm making a GET request to /greet. I'm going to create a ERB file called greet, and then it's going to render out to the screen. So the first thing that we need, any ideas? What's the first thing that we need?
ERB file.
Yep, an ERB file, which means we need a what?
Views folder.
We need a views folder. I'm going to call this greet.erb and save it, split the screen, and put it here on the right. I'm going to replace this whole thing with this particular form. So anytime anyone makes a GET request to /greet, I'm going to load the ERB file under the views folder called greet.erb. So this is what we've got. We have an H1 that just says, hey, I want to know your name. And I created a form. Now, forms by default will post. Like whenever you fill out a form and you press submit, it's a post request. But I'm just being very, very careful here. I'm going to say the form has a method on there called post, and it's going to /greet back. And then I have some input text and stuff like that. So you type in your name, you press submit. You'll see this in just a second. Let's just see if this shows up. So I'm going to kill this. A shotgun greet.rb 9393. So get greet. So it just says, hey, I want to know your name, and then there's a form of some sort. Again, I make the GET request to /greet. It loads the ERB file greet.erb. This stuff shows up on the page, and the most important thing is on line 2. It's a post. It's when I hit submit, it's going to post to /greet back. Now, most of the time, if I didn't have this particular line 7 through 10 here, it doesn't know what to do. When I hit submit here, though, it's going to come over here, and I'm just going to put a pry, and we can see where we are. Refresh the page. John, say hey. It's spinning, spinning, spinning. So I'm stuck here on line number 9. So this, just by hitting line 9 here, it verifies that whenever I do hit the submit button, it hits a post to greet back, and that's what happens here. This server is listening for all post requests to greet back, and then when somebody does make a post request to greet back, I do the code between line 8 and 12 here, and I'm stuck here on line 9. Let's take a look at what params is. And what is params again?
A hash.
It's just a hash, yep. It's a hash that's based off of user input. Params, and I have a username of John. Okay. How did I get that params? So inside of the form, everything inside the form is saved as params. So I have something called username right here, and then you put you are able to type in text. When you type in text there, it saves into params the hash under the key username. And then from there, I can hit submit, and then it ends up over here. So let's exit and see what happens. It looks like there's a big blow up, and it says, unfortunately, there's no such file or directory called greetback.erb. So what's the issue?
Can we look back?
Mm-hmm.
Reference you.
So on line 4, maybe it makes sense to open this. On line 4, I made a GET request to /greet. So it says load the ERB file called greet. It's right over here. So I visited that site. It loaded this particular file for HTML. I submitted my name. I ended up over here. And what do you think is missing?
You need a greet back here.
Yeah, I need a greet back ERB. So line 9 was able to work. And if you jump back over here, it says, hey, something's broken on line 11, actually. So ERB greet back is actually broken because I don't actually have a file for it. So let's create a new file called greetback.erb. And we can just say this particular thing. Great, it's nice to meet you, whatever your name is. So let's jump back to /greet. Make a GET request to greet. Loads up this particular ERB file, greet.erb, under views. This stuff is loaded up to the page. And then all of this is what you see on the screen here. Now, the most important thing that you need to know about this is line 2. I'm creating a form, and I'm posting. Like this particular form is going to post. And it's going to post to greet back. So whenever I hit submit over here, I expect there to be something inside my greet.rb that accounts for whenever somebody makes a post request to greet back, this is the code that's going to be executed. Now, when I type in my name under your name, you see it right here, it says your name. Whatever I type here is going to be saved into params under the key of username. And then when I hit submit, it's going to fire off the post to greet back on line 2. So let me throw a binding pry. Press say hey, and I'm stuck in a pry session. So let's look at what params is. So params, again, is that hash that I get from the form. There's a key on there called username, which is right here. So whatever I type gets saved under this particular name value of username. So when I do params of username, I get whatever I type here, and I save that as the variable name. From there, I'm going to load the ERB file called greetback, and it says that I need some sort of local variable on that particular view, which it looks like it's going to be called name, and the value of that is going to be the name that I have on line 10. So if I jump over here, it says, great, it's nice to meet you, and then it's going to interpolate name. So let me exit, and hopefully this will do what I expect. Great, it's nice to meet you, whatever I type here. Okay. So I think that's like the most important parts of today, just like kind of get like basic overview of how Sinatra works. Is there any questions before I start going over what assignments you have?
You're just overriding the key value. You're not keeping a list of names.
Right now?
Yeah.
No, I'm not keeping a list of names. I'm just keeping track of whatever they fill out in the form. All right. So I would recommend, I'm going to upload the videos in just a second, but I would recommend going through the curriculum. Again, everything that I said, everything I did was found inside of here, the curriculum for today. You have 2 challenges for today, and it is a pairing. Highly recommend pairing today, especially when you're trying to get all of these things into your brain. And because Leanne is here, you might as well. You can pair it with a remote person, but in person. One of them is called Sinatra credit card. Now, hint, hint, you've done this before. Hint, hint, it's called Loon algorithm from week 1. The idea behind this is I'm going to create an algorithm, a form that basically says when you enter your numbers and you press enter, it's going to detect 1, is this a valid credit card number? And 2, what type of credit card is it? And it's really nice because they kind of see that immediate feedback. And then the second one is a little less fun. It's because it's not Christmas time anymore, but it's Secret Santa pairing. So it's you have a website, you enter a bunch of names, and then from there, once they hit the submit button, your program is going to run an algorithm to pair them up with Secret Santa so that each person gets somebody. And then you're going to output that out to the screen. Let me stop recording here, and then we'll get started.